JavaScript meetup a couple of times, so maybe some people already have seen me here. But during last year, I really a little bit switched my mind and focus where technologically I'm looking for. So these days we are still using like JavaScript quite a lot, but I really look quite deeply into blockchain. So I'm not the ICO guy who's just selling UID, investing my new coins. Because actually I see much more interesting things there. So I actually do the technical part of blockchain related things. So if anyone will have questions, both philosophical and technical after this presentation, so let's talk. And my main reason why I started to go to a couple of different meetups where are technical people meeting, because I see that actually these days there are a lot of money in blockchain, a lot of business people in blockchain, but there are really big lack of engineers there. For all this hype, and I do feel that those business people still don't get that there are not enough engineers there, but they will understood soon. So we will have a lot of jobs in that area. And I really promote people to look into right sites. And after this presentation, I hope people will have the answer for the question. Okay, I am JavaScript developer. Do I have possibility to use my skills and knowledge in this hypey area? And I will try to answer to this question. So actually, we will talk what is blockchain a little bit, does it work, or which blockchains actually works, a little bit introductions in that, some of them, a little bit how we are using JavaScript there, or in which part you can use JavaScript, a little bit some links to some libraries if somebody will want to start from somewhere after the presentation, and some bonus. So first of all, what is blockchain? And actually many people are misunderstand this, because usually they say it's just a chain of blocks, you know. But if you look from this perspective, so even Git commits are like a chain of some kind of commits, yeah? So you still have chain. And if you will just put them into block, will it be blockchain or not? I don't know. You could say that our branches, that's a blocks, and then we have blockchain, but that's not true, yeah? So the main thing about blockchain, when you're thinking about blockchain and what Satoshi Nakamoto invented, because most of parts of blockchain already was there. So what was invention? That's actually consensus. How to solve consensus problem when you have a lot of parties which you don't know, you are not able to trust them, and how to still maintain the same database together with different nodes, or with different pieces of software, and cryptographically be sure that nothing was not according to the rules. And actually the proof of work, that's the main part of blockchain, which is the most expensive part, but that's if you will put it out, this consensus mechanism, like, okay, proof of work or proof of stake or some other consensus mechanism, if it's not there, that's not blockchain from my point of view. And everything else is just marketing buzzwords and bullshit. So, okay, there are a lot of different cryptocurrencies, and many of them are using some blockchains, yeah? The question is, that's not from today. Don't look at it. It's like 1 month old from another presentation. But the question is, okay, I am developer. So to which of them should I look? What's the future of blockchain technology and stuff like that? And from my perspective, there are only a few blockchains which already works, with which we already can do many solutions, and I don't believe that there will be much more groups of those. So first big group, it's a Bitcoin. So actually just learn how Bitcoin works, what's Bitcoin, what's tooling for Bitcoin, and you will have possibility to work with a lot of Bitcoin forks and even currencies like Dash or Zcash, which say that we are anonymous private currencies, we are introducing new things, but still they in one or another point was a fork of Bitcoin main software and most of ideas, so just learn Bitcoin. So from that perspective, you will know most of blockchain ideas and actually tooling. But there is another quite important group of blockchains which are already up and running. It's Ethereum and all of Ethereum forks, not that many as of Bitcoin, because it's much more expensive to run Ethereum. But actually around Ethereum this time, like if you're looking not like 10 years perspective, but like you wanna start now, Ethereum is the platform for most of ICOs. And in one or another way, they will touch Ethereum. And another third, quite big and already working group, it's Ripple and his clones like Stellar, and these days there are more clones of Ripple. So it's not a blockchain as a blockchain, but still, because there are some limitations in terms of consensus, how you're able to participate in the network, but still, it's somewhere there, it's a cryptocurrency, there are cryptography used, and a lot of use cases for that. And I am sure that even if you will look to that group, you will find, maybe not in Lithuania, but you will find quite a lot of places where you can use your knowledge. Everything else, it's either experiments, either just tokens on Ethereum or some another blockchain. And not actually useful. Like there are many hype, like EOS, Cardano, IOTA, Tron, many things, but they don't work yet. Either will never work, either they're just experimenting, so I would not put any of those technologies to some real life applications. So I will touch only what is real life, what you already touched, with which I already ran something, so I know the knowledge and I'm not speculating or gambling. We are not on gambling meetup, like ACO meetup, we are on engineers meetup. So let's start from what's Bitcoin, yeah? And what's main parts of Bitcoin. Actually, I would put that in the Bitcoin itself, you have like three main blocks. Like that's the full nodes, the software which is storing all the transactions. There is mining. I will explain what actually mining is for those who maybe never looked to that direction deeper. And there is a wallet, yeah, which shows us our balances, have our keys, and allow us to send those transactions. And actually, Bitcoin, when Satoshi Nakamoto wrote it, it was one software. So in one software, you're just running one application, it's already storing all the database, it's already doing mining, and that's your wallet with your keys and stuff. And these days, it's not the right anymore. Like each of these part has a lot of different submodules and implementations. So first, what is full node? It's just a ledger of transactions. And in Bitcoin, there are one main implementation of full node, like Bitcoin Core, but there are other implementations which are more experimental, not that popular, but you can implement Bitcoin in many ways if you're just going through a protocol. And in different implementations, even database, how much space these ledgers took. In one implementation, it could be 500 gigabytes, in another implementation, it's 180 gigabytes. Because actually, how the data is stored there, the database, it's not a part of Bitcoin protocol. The part of Bitcoin protocol is just the structure of transactions. So, like, we have nodes around the planet, different computers somewhere, and they are just doing peer-to-peer, similarly like when we are downloading something from torrents, we're also establishing connections from one node there and getting new links, and in there just syncing. Yeah, so there could be some lag. So from one node to another, it's if you're watching your blockchain in Japan and in Europe, there could be some difference in information for some period of time, but still that's how it works. And all of them should store all transactions, like information about all transactions. So another big part, it's actually mining. So actually what is mining? Technically, it's a miners are creating blocks of transactions. Like they are just doing this. And when they are finding hashes, like this super expensive mathematical puzzle which they are doing, as usual people are explaining in not technical way. So actually what it is, like you have block, you have in that block a lot of transactions, and you have a hash, like you put all the transactions, you do the hashing of that, in Bitcoin it's SHA-256, and you have the hash of that block. Then, in the network you're catching new transactions, and you can decide, like a miner, your software can decide which transactions you want to put to that block. So actually, usually they are putting those transactions which are giving them the most transaction fee, but actually they could decide to put only my transactions or my client's transactions because I want like this way. There is nothing in the protocol what they should to put. Just economically, it's better to put the most expensive transactions. And actually, miners have those blocks of transactions already, all of them in a couple of seconds. Just they have mempool of a lot of transactions. You're just putting as many as you can, maximum 1 megabyte of transactions, and then you have to create new hash, which should be smaller than so-called nodes. And that's why to that your amount of transactions, you're adding this one more number in this block, which is called nodes. So it could be 1, 2, 3, 10, whenever you want. And you're just regenerating hashes, generating, until you find one which is, according to the consensus rule, like, okay, it fits. So in the same time, many miners already have created blocks. They are just fighting who of them will put the block to blockchain. In proof of stake algorithm, what they are doing, they are somehow voting, yeah, or doing like just randomizing. Okay, you should be like it's just like voting, but in different way. Yeah? So we're just deciding who of you will get money and put the transactions into blockchain. That's the mining. And around that, there are created a lot of scripts. But actually, you as a developer will have to touch this part only if you will be hired by some mining pool. If you're not miner or not hired by mining pool, just you should forget about this part. It's not that big. And the biggest part where most of engineers are needed these days, it's a wallet. So actually, what's wallet? It's just software which is looking on the blockchain, all those transactions, and shows you yours. Shows you how much bitcoins do you have, yeah? And also that's something which storing your keys, yeah? We have like hardware wallets, so it's hard to hack them. We have different types of wallets, because here each new startup, each implementation, each exchange have to implement some kind of wallet. Each user, each use case have to have own wallet, own software which is storing their keys, doing transactions, watching balances. And most of people don't know that in blockchain there are not, like in Bitcoin blockchain, there is nothing like account. So if you have the address, like it's a hash of your public key, it doesn't mean that you have balance somewhere in blockchain of that public key. If you see the number that you have some bitcoins in your wallet, this doesn't mean that that's some account. Actually, when you have a transaction, so transaction has a couple of parts on it. One part is an input, and input is linked to another transaction, and output is where to which addresses hashes I'm allowing to spend those money. So if someone somewhere send me 10 bitcoins, like not send, but let's say send, yeah. So that means that there is some transaction in which there is an output, like 10 bitcoins for this address. So then, when I'm doing new transactions and I would like to send for my colleague 4 bitcoins, so actually I'm taking that input of 10 bitcoins, and then I'm doing 2 outputs. So 4 bitcoins I'm saying that it's for him, and 6 bitcoins I still want to stay with me. So I'm actually doing one more output, so I'm allowing for myself, for my another maybe address or the same address to spend those 6 bitcoins. And then each transaction is doing like this, and finally somewhere like in blockchain you have this last outputs which still don't have the links with the new block. So that's last unspent transactions. Yeah. So in blockchain it's UTXO, unspent transaction output. So what your wallet does actually is looking on the all list of unspent transactions, looking which of them you can spend, then calculate them together and shows you balance. So that's one of the things which wallet does, and there are much more things you could do, but just small example how the transactions works. And then let's go for Ethereum. Like, Ethereum is much more sophisticated. I don't say that it's better, but it's more sophisticated. But I have 1 minute to explain it. And actually, what the biggest part of Ethereum what it does Turing complete smart contracts. Bitcoin has also smart contracts itself, but Ethereum added Turing complete. So actually, you can write almost any kind of algorithm on Ethereum. It doesn't mean that it will run, because there are some time limitations. But you can run a lot of. So actually in Ethereum you have accounts, not like in Bitcoin. And what is account? Account is your address, which is hash of your public key. You have balance of ethers, and then you have code of your smart contracts. So it's also part of your account. And the last thing which you have, it's a state, so like this counter. So if it's 1, 2, or 10, or 1 million, or something. So in your account in Ethereum, you have a lot of, much more data. Yeah? That's why Ethereum blockchain is much bigger these days. It's almost terabyte these days, if you would like to have the full. And because you're writing actual code, people are looking for many different use cases for that. And actually, like in Ethereum, you have a lot of these smart contracts. So persons can do, like, send some kind of transaction, but this transaction is not only like, please transfer this money from him to him. Yeah, it could be also, okay, let's have agreement that there are Olympic Games in our country, and that's Russia, that's the Winter Olympic Games in Sochi. So let's bet that if during Olympic Games we will have more than 0 degrees Celsius, that will be our insurance contract, so then this money goes to me. And if not, so I am putting to that smart contract some money, and my insurer putting some premium, or if something will happen. And we are expecting that, oh, there is some online service, and then our smart contract will ask once a day or something like that from that online service. It will ask, okay, what's the weather today? And we both agreed that this service, this API call, is good enough. And that's how people usually think about smart contract, but that's not true. Ethereum is not able to send any transaction, like any calls out of Ethereum. So usually you have to write some kind of Oracle service, which is doing opposite direction, like which is reading the weather from that service, and doing one more transaction to Ethereum and says, hey Ethereum, here is the weather today. And tomorrow, hey Ethereum, weather today is a different one. Yeah? That's like people, and Ethereum knows only what it's told about, and this like thing, it's called Oracle. Like in movie Matrix, when everyone goes to that lady because that lady knows something which is more than our like knowledge, so like our planet or something. So in Ethereum, there are lots of those oracles, because to empower smart contracts with any data, you have to send a lot of transactions with those oracles. So there are a lot of small services which are watching something, doing transactions with Ethereum all the time, and they are everywhere. So to sum up, 5 main pieces where you could put your hands in blockchain these days, main pieces. Let's becoming core developer and working on full node if you are liking database and networking and all that stuff. You can be writing mining software and optimizing mathematics, how to find new hashes and stuff like that. You can be developer of all those wallets, working for banks, exchanges, your new startup, anything around that. You can write just smart contracts, or you can work on oracles around those smart contracts. And actually, when you are thinking where most of people are working, so that's those 3 directions where most of developers in blockchain will have work. And I'm talking that there is like a lot of people can work there. If you can have like 1,000 people on full nodes, another 1,000 people for mining, and that would be enough for whole planet. Could be enough. So for all these 3 parts, that we have places for much more people. But just ideas what you can write more, like blockchain explorers, because people want to know which transaction somewhere in public database, so let's analyze it. Let's write some machine learning around that data. Yeah? Blockchain monitoring, so if you would like to see what's happened, like if Oracle is sending information to blockchain, but you also can watch if something happened on blockchain. If somebody sent some transaction somewhere, then my service is watching blockchain and doing something in out of blockchain world. I don't know, for example, writing an article, Satoshi Nakamoto used his block Bitcoins, sell, or doing like selling on exchange. Like just many examples. This is one stupid, but still. Payment processors of any kind. So like if cryptocurrencies will be adopted massively, so when you go to any shop, there are some place where you can buy using Visa, so there should be a way how to buy using cryptocurrencies. Integration there is also needed. So for all of them, and there are a lot of those tokens, and also think of this Maxima card, which has some points. All of this, like, kind of could be useful. Yeah. Exchanges, centralized, decentralized, Lightning networks. It's something which you have to Google if you don't know, but that's a really big piece of something which you can do, because Lightning networks allows millions of transactions per second for cryptocurrencies. Theoretically. Why theoretically? Because practically it was not tested yet. We have not enough users to practically have a test that those coins was actually used in that speed. Some kind of things like side chains. You can be infrastructure developer, because like if you have terabyte database, which in 1 year will be 10 terabyte database, so most probably most of users will not able to use that, but all those Oracle developers will want to use blockchain. So you can really become an infrastructure company which is running super cool nodes around with the cool APIs showing you super fast responses and stuff like that. And that's actually, I think, also quite big business in blockchain, but for those who likes infrastructure, like Internet of Things gambling actually is a quite big part of cryptocurrencies. And if you like that, you can find really a lot of applications for that. Because actually in gambling, like in cryptocurrencies, you will learn a little bit of cryptography. And in gambling, cryptography is kind of really useful, like that math. Okay. So the question, is JavaScript good for blockchain? Because usually people, when they are looking what's the main language for Ethereum, what's the main language for Bitcoin, what's the main language for EOS or for some kind of another blockchain. And usually it's C++, Go, Rust, sometimes Java, yeah? So I don't want to work with those technologies. I like my JavaScript. What I should do? Do I have a place? And actually the answer is yes. Especially when we are talking about all those wallets and all those oracles and all those watchings around. And if you are going to write something with JavaScript for Bitcoin, there are a lot of good tools. Here I leave just a few links for those who maybe will Google later my presentation, just where to start from. So we have quite good libraries for Bitcoin. You can choose. Also, you can look for wallets, because there are some wallets written in JavaScript already, and the best way to learn is just to jump into some open source project. So that's the links and how it would look like. So let's just create a new Bitcoin address from our brain password. I know some words which I remember and how I could create. So what I first do? So first I have to get hash of those words and get SHA-256 of that. Then I just use small magic function, and it will create me an address. This function will actually create a key pair, so you will get public and private key. So this key pair, and from your public and private key, actually public key would be enough. You're just getting your address. It's a hash of your public key with some additional information like this. One, it means that it's a Bitcoin address which is not smart contract, but which is paid to public key address. It's enough to have only public key without any additional information to use those coins. So as you see, you don't have to learn that much about that cryptography if you're not creating those libraries. It's just some easy steps, and you're using. You can generate, for example, if you would work for a shop which is accepting Bitcoins. So first thing, for each new user, you would have to create new address of such, so you would know that it's a payment for this good. Usually in Bitcoin, we just create new addresses and watching them. Oh, there are money for that address. That means that you already paid for me, and I know that it's you, because to guess this address, it's almost impossible. It's like guessing one atom in in eternity. It's really hard. Okay, let's go for Ethereum. And in Ethereum, actually, JavaScript is even more popular. There is even project, like in Ethereum, we don't have one super full node which is written in C++ and everyone is using it, like 95% of people. In Ethereum, there are 3 or 4 official implementations of Ethereum protocol. One is written in Go, another is written in Rust, one is in C++, and one is in Python. But there are also not official implementations, and one of those implementations is in JavaScript. Actually, it's not that efficient to run that JavaScript as a full node when you're in production, because it's a little bit too slow to sync that terabyte data from the beginning, and it's not have all the features. But to write the full node in JavaScript, they had to implement all the logic, all the mathematical things. So they created a lot of tools. So anything you need for Ethereum, like like for testing purposes, you need some clean blockchain, and it would be good to have blockchain where you have possibility to debug what is going on with your smart contracts. And for all these things, you have really a lot of libraries. And then if you're writing your Oracle, so there is a Web3.js called and like Truffle framework. It's really worth to look for. And one of the most popular, actually, Ethereum wallets, it's my Ether wallet, or now it's new implementation, my crypto. So this code is also in JavaScript. So just look and you will learn anything you need. Okay. Is this JavaScript? Not. But for JavaScript developers, it's really easy, readable. Because Gavin Wood, who is author of Solidity language, which is a language for Ethereum virtual machine, actually Ethereum virtual machine accepts a couple of languages, and the most popular one is Solidity. So this, to start coding with this language, from syntax perspective, it's really easy for JavaScript. And actually what we have here, we have some kind of auction. We have some kind of variables when you have date of start and who will get money in the end and who already is on the top and just boolean if it's ended or no. This one will be a function constructor will be run when you're deploying the smart contract only once and never again. And then you can do transactions into blockchain and say, in my transaction I can say, okay, bid, use bid, and then you're sending some value. If your bid was higher than highest, then it's becoming main. And if not, it will just go back to you. And that's a simple code. And then you can write an Oracle. So Oracle actually could be also your wallet. Yeah? You can say that that's an Oracle because it's sending some information from outside to blockchain, some information from outside world to blockchain world. And it's really, really easy. If you want to send some money, you're just having that smart contract address, you're connecting to some node, which you're running maybe on your local host or in the cloud. Maybe it's already attached in your browser. And there you have your wallet, and you just say, hey, send this amount to this function. And this function will do the job. Or you can, or if you don't want to spend transaction fee, you can just watch blockchain, and it's also quite easy. One line, and you're getting information who is highest bidder. So, and this is something which is really needed for most of ICOs these days, because they have to use their coins. So for their applications everywhere, they have to accept their coins. They have to vote using their coins. They have to send a little bit information like about these contracts, bets they are doing or anything else. Some as oracles are just sending to Ethereum, like if you're doing decentralized exchange, for example, between tokens. So that's also the same thing. You're storing all the pairs or the bids and asks in blockchain. It's slow, but people are doing this, and it's quite popular these days. Games are also popular. So just a small example. So what's my main reason of today's presentation is to say that blockchain needs you. And there is a lot of job for that. It's just a question of your creativity. And one bonus. Actually, there is a buzzword, DApps, decentralized applications. It's everywhere. If you will just start to look at blockchain world, they will talk a lot of decentralized applications. And everything which is decentralized getting like 10 millions, 100 millions, 50 millions investment in ICOs. because they somehow believe that those smart contracts, which actually are applications, which are run on blockchain, which are run in a decentralized way, it's a new feature. From my point of view, I would say that the decentralized applications we had from the beginning of internet. The most used and the oldest application on internet, which is still super popular, it's email. It's a super good example of decentralized application. It's decentralized, nobody controls this protocol. You're not able to kill emails. You can kill like a receiver's server, but you're not able to kill the idea. Yeah? If just both of you are using it, it's enough. So it's not killable. Yeah? You can kill Facebook, just go to the Facebook and no data at all. But you're not able to kill email. And there are a lot of examples, like IRC chats, good old days, Jaro protocol, like even our SMSs, that's decentralized thing. Because with my provider, I can send SMS to any part of planet where they are implementing the same protocol. But like from my perspective, what's the main use case for blockchain? It's not those super smart contracts which will do everything. There is a big use of smart contracts, but in a way of that it's a programmable money. That you're able to create some kind of algorithm around your money and some rules how to move your money. And if you will look on all ICOs, those tokens actually, why they are super popular? Because that's their money, money of their startup, money of their network. Maybe nobody else is using that, but still they want to use those tokens as a money. And that's the best application for blockchain. And that's why ICOs so popular, because they finally found a good place how to issue new money. And because you can program them, now all those decentralized applications, like was Jaro talking, but these days nobody is using Jaro. Even in Google has Google Talk, but they switched to Hangouts, which is centralized protocol totally. And it's really because it's really hard to monetize decentralized applications. How to make good money on decentralized application? It's really hard. It's much easier when you control all the network, because you can then sell data, not only ads, and ads say on this network selling only you, not everyone who is created just more user-friendly application or faster or something like that. But with blockchain, with the possibility to have all those tokens and all those different kind of money, they already found finally the way how to monetize all the decentralized solutions. So, for example, one of my clients is creating decentralized CDN. So CDN, which is not owned by one company, but anyone can run a node in the network and stream the content. And without coins, like they could use just Ethereum or like just Bitcoin. But without cryptocurrency, it would be impossible for them, because they should connect to a lot of banks around the planet, do a lot of bank links and anything else. Yes, so it's really hard to start a new node in the network with not decentralized money. And decentralized money allows us finally to create those applications which are not owned by someone, one entity, but still get paid. So I really believe that cryptocurrencies will not die. Maybe most of ICOs are not right with all these promises, but some of them understand what actually could be use of this technology. And if you're really looking to finance, or it's interesting to you, or math is interesting to you, or cryptography, or stuff like that, or you just want to get better salary than you're getting now, that's a really good time to look to blockchain. I don't have time. So, any questions? Yes?
Well, so let's talk a little bit about pros and cons, okay?
Yeah.
Everywhere there are. Yeah, I'm Thomas. I just wanted to ask you about performance, because I heard in one seminar, one workshop. I'm not sure if it's true, but that's why I'm asking. And there might be some performance issues with these kind of technologies. I mean, because it's based on synchronizing, because it's keeping different.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Okay.
But for money, okay, I skip this because not the answer for your question, but not an easy explainable way. But actually, there is a solution. You should Google Lightning Network. You should Google payment channels or cryptographical checks. So in this way, we could peer-to-peer. Like if I'm owner of Bitcoin and you're owner of Bitcoin, we can create a smart contract between us, where we will lock some amount of Bitcoins, and then we will send each other checks. And you can know that I am not sending you bigger check than I am owning Bitcoins, because you can check that on blockchain, but you don't have to do transaction on blockchain. Reading from blockchain could scale to insanely, like it's just reading, like you just have your own node. Maybe you will read that 2 seconds later than it was mined, but that's not significant. But when I'm sending you check, you're sending me check back. When we are exchanging, we can do that peer-to-peer. And when you're thinking about that cryptographic checks, where you're just sending promises that if you will want, you can go to blockchain, show this cryptographic signature, and get your Bitcoins. But if you don't need, you can send my check to someone else, and then someone else will go to blockchain, put it to blockchain, and will get those Bitcoins. So this peer-to-peer way is scaling, theoretically, mathematically, it's scaling to millions of transactions per second, because it's peer-to-peer.
How giving a check works in a cryptographical way?
Do we have 1 hour more?
Can you
let's talk about that, because it's not explainable in 1 minute. But if you wanna read about payment channels and Lightning Network, how it works, there is all explanation.
If I'm a good JavaScript developer already and play a bit with Ethereum, could you just recommend a project to start with to play a bit, just from your experience to start with?
Like open source project?
Yeah, anything you can just tell to everyone here.
Oh my gosh. Like if you wanna go deeper and understand how everything works, so either you can join some wallet, any kind of wallet. Maybe you will implement tokens on your wallet. So your wallet will show beautifully tokens which people are owning. Maybe you will add some possibility to use checks to send those tokens. So like my crypto, you could look on that. But it's really hard for me to say one. Yeah, like just easiest pick, Google wallets or create your own wallet. That's the best way to learn and to understand more.
Is creating your own token a good idea or not? Just for fun?
Just for fun, yes. Why not?
What's your opinion on putting all the public government data on blockchain and make it not public as well?
Not public, it's how you do that. For public data, I'm not sure that we need blockchain for that. Like we for sure it would be good to have some to use some ideas from blockchain. Like okay, they use that distributed ledger technology these days. It's not a blockchain because like consensus there is like not there, but still it's auditable. There are some trusted nodes which are talking to each other, but you can write run your reading node. So it's same like you have like Git repo. Only some people can write to that repo, but you can read from that. So I don't think that we need blockchain for that. But I do believe that sooner or later they will use those distributed ledgers. Sometimes they call that private blockchains. Like, that's really oxymoron, because if it's a blockchain, it means that nobody is restricted to start to participate in network. And if it's a private, that means that there is a private restriction. So there is not such thing like private blockchain, but now they have a new word for that, distributed ledger technology. And yeah, they will go there, because that actually scales much better. Because only a few nodes are writing data, and everyone is reading. So why not? And that's also really easy if you know this cryptography. This tooling, to go to that tooling, it's not that big jump. It's really related.
Just removing the consensus part.
Yeah. Changing it to something centralized. No question anymore. So okay.